There's a problem that basically every business faces, which is that you have a ton of Google Docs, Slack messages, Notion pages, meeting transcripts, CRM data, invoices, etc. But unless your data is extremely well organized, it's pretty difficult to find what you actually need. And even if you can find that one specific piece of information, you often end up missing bigger trends or patterns hidden across all of the data. You might start to see it slowly as you review a couple different things, but because you don't look at everything at once, you oftentimes miss the bigger picture. But in this video, we're gonna talk about how to fix that by building an AI second brain for your business. Because two of the smartest people in the world of AI are circling around this idea right now. So it's a great time to talk about how to do it. The first is Andrej Karpathy, who is one of the early team members at OpenAI. He's also one of the most well-respected AI researchers out there. And he recently published this idea of a personal LLM knowledge base, which is very similar to what we're talking about today, but it's more focused on learning a specific idea or concept, or for learning something about yourself. Then there's Jack Dorsey, who is the founder, CEO of Twitter, and then Square, which became Block. And he has talked about how this idea is slowly going to start replacing traditional management hierarchies at companies. Because the reason you need a management hierarchy is that you have to communicate information to every single person at the company. And if you're just one CEO, you can't do that to 1,000 different people. That's why even the Roman Empire used a hierarchy that's similar to what we have today. But part of what he's saying is that if you build a second brain for your company like this, you may no longer need that. But it's even bigger than that because that second brain shows you the product roadmap of what you need to fix. You look at what are customers consistently asking about, what are they dealing with, what issues aren't they able to solve with your product yet. So I'm gonna show you how to build the small business version of this in a weekend. And the tools you'll need for this are Claude. It's best if you have a paid subscription to make this as automated as possible, but you don't technically need it. And then Obsidian, which is free to download. There are tools out there that help you do things like this, but most of them are aimed at big businesses and are very expensive. If you're a small to medium-sized business, you're actually probably at an advantage here because it's not that complicated for you to build. You maybe don't have 1,000 different data sources, you just have like 12 key ones. So in terms of the instruction manual, I'm gonna show you this image here, which is the architecture of what we're building. This is the raw sources of everything that your business produces, at least all the important stuff. So this can be Slack exports, meeting transcripts, client emails, project docs, onboarding materials, etc. These files you are not editing, you're just taking and you're feeding it into the wiki. Then you've got the wiki itself. This is an Obsidian vault of markdown files that the LLM writes and maintains. So it'll have entity pages, so it could be your clients, projects, team members, vendors, etc. Concept pages, so your positioning, recurring objections, key decisions, things like that. Then you've got the index.md that just keeps a catalog of everything, so the LLM knows where it is. And then a log file, so the system knows what has already been processed. Now the wiki, the LLM owns entirely. This part you're not editing, you are a reader of the wiki, not a writer. If you want to add something, you add it as an inbox file, and then the LLM writes it and updates it. Then layer 3 is the schema. This is the instruction manual for the LLM. So it tells Claude what page types exist, what goes on each one, naming conventions, what to do when new sources arrive, what the index and log file formats look like. This makes it so that the LLM isn't starting from scratch all over again when it's looking at or analyzing your wiki or files. It has the instructions, it knows what to do. Then we have the 3 tiers of automation. This is where you should pick your level. You can change it at any time. If you're not super technical, haven't done things like this before, I would start with tier 1, which is manual. Files land in inbox. Some of that is automated. Actually, some of it will be manual. But you open Claude, tell it to process new inbox items, and then copy the outputted markdown into your Obsidian vault. It will take about 20 minutes a week, but it's really valuable. Then semi-automated is kind of a mix. Things are mostly handled automatically put into the inbox, but you'll have to do manual processing once a week to make sure everything gets updated properly. And then fully automated is you can have a Claude Code routine running, say once a week, every Friday. It will check for new files, process them, update the wiki automatically, and log what changed. You just look at the wiki, it's all good, it's all there. So let's talk about how to actually add data sources from your business. First up is Google Drive. You are gonna want to search download Google Drive for desktop. This is going to make it so that files within your Google Drive automatically sync to your computer. This means you don't have to download them to feed them into the Obsidian for the wiki. So now you can see when I go down here to Google Drive, I have my drive here as well as shared drives. Within there, I've got tons of content. Now, we probably don't need all of this to actually be synced to our wiki. So we get to decide what we want in there and what we don't. But we'll come back to that in a little bit. For now, I just want to show how to get the raw data in there. Now for meetings, say if you're using Google Meets, you can automatically get transcripts and add those into your wiki as well. So you just go here to Apps, Google Workspace, and then Google Meet. And then if you scroll down here, you can automatically have Google take notes and save that as a transcript file that you can use. If we go back to the Google Drive, then you can see in here, I have Meet recordings right here. If you want to export Slack data, you have two different methods. The first is a manual. You basically go to your Slack workspace settings. There's an import-export feature, choose export, and then choose the date range and channels that you want. The thing is, this will export as a JSON file, and Obsidian is not good at reading JSON files, but we can fix that very easily by simply throwing that file into Claude and asking it to convert it into a readable MD file. The second way is automated with Claude Code. And here you're gonna go to api.slack.com/apps. And then from here, you will go to create a new app, give it a name, give it a workspace. And then once you do that, you can select the channel permission. So it just needs to have access to channels, like channel history, channel's ability to read, and then ability to read users as well. So you select those, you install the app, you copy the token, and then you give Claude Code this prompt. Write a Python script that uses the Slack API to pull all messages from these channels. List the channels, since a date in a file called lastrun.txt, formats them as clear markdown with timestamps and usernames, and saves the output to inbox slack log today's date.md. Update lastrun.txt with today's date when done. So now this will export everything you want. And then if you want to go the extra mile, you would just ask it to do this once a week. Literally just add that in and you'll be good to go. If you want to do Gmail, it is pretty simple, but there's a few considerations. The main one being that you probably have thousands of emails in your Gmail and you don't want all of those in the second brain. You could add them in, but it will get kind of messy. A better way to do it, although this does take more work, is to add a label to key emails that you would like to include. So you call it something like brain inbox. Then as you're going through your work, anything that seems key that everybody in the company should know about, you just add the label brain inbox. Another way to do it though is filtering for specific email addresses that you think are relevant. So say if you are working with a client and all client emails should be in there, you can add that client's email domain to a filter search for that. So you just get those emails and then add that in. But how we actually export this is we're gonna go to Google Takeout. I am going to deselect all and then we're gonna search for Gmail. Now here is where we can filter by label. So this is exactly what I was just talking about. This is where it's helpful. For now, I am just going to switch it to ones that were sent and ones that were starred. So presumably if I sent an email, that's kind of important. And if I starred it, that's probably important. And again, we can still filter these after we've exported it. So we've got that. We'll scroll all the way down, next step, and then we will hit create export. Now, as you can see here, it does take a while for this process to go through. So we might have to wait hours or days to complete. But then for anything else, you kind of get the general pattern now. If you keep data somewhere, almost always there is a way to export it. So if the tool has a native export, use it and then convert it to Markdown. We're gonna talk about that in just a second. If it has a Zapier integration, you can set up a Zap to automatically add that into your Drive inbox folder so everything's in there. If it has an API, Claude can write a script to pull that. And if it doesn't have any of that, you can copy and paste or summarize it manually. Obviously, that's kind of more work. It's up to you if you want to do that. Some other great places to pull data are a CRM, HubSpot, Salesforce, sales calls, recordings, support tickets, invoices, or financial summaries, things like that. So now we have the files in our drive, but we need to convert them into a format that Obsidian can read. So this is where we're going to use Claude, and specifically Claude Cowork, though you could also use Claude Code too, if you would like. So here we're going to start with our meeting recording. But then just before we do anything there, we are going to make sure we have our inbox folder set up in Obsidian. So we're going to open Obsidian. And by the way, if you've never used Obsidian before, it's free. You can just download it. Go to download Obsidian. Right here, click this, and you'll be good to go. So now I'm here, you can see I had some stuff in there from before. We're gonna do File and Open Vault, and then create a new vault. So this is going to be Company Second Brain. Then we'll browse, and let's put it just in our documents here. Cool. I'm gonna say, in this folder, Meet Recordings, I have a number of transcripts from Google Meets. Can you convert them to .md files and add them into the folder called Company Second Brain that is in my Documents folder? We'll have to allow. Now I'm also gonna clean up files from Google Drive, turn them into MD files that Obsidian can read. So you can see down here, I selected a folder within my Google Drive that is our content folder. So I've got that one. And then I'm gonna say, I have a bunch of files in here from Google Drive. Can you read them? And any of them that are text-based, can you convert them to .md files? And then put them into the folder called Company Second Brain. It's gonna take a little bit to connect and grab these files. You also may have to add the Google Drive integration so that it can read these files from within Google Drive. Like, it's still, you've connected to them on the computer, but it does need the Google Drive access to read the content. All right, so the files have finished converting. You can see here, went through a bunch of stuff, converted those. I had a cowork running that converted meeting transcripts, all of that. Now, this isn't all of the files that I have for the business. There are a lot more. It's up to you how many you want to convert. I wanted to run through this with you guys live, and so it's not everything, but it's enough so that you understand what's going on. So now you can see here in my Company Second Brain folder, I have interviews and then a bunch of stuff from our growth marketing folder, like content, tons of stuff in there, some financial stuff, all of that. Now we're going to go to Claude Code, and we are going to switch our folder to this Company Second Brain. And then I'm going to paste in this prompt. Now I'll link to this prompt down below. It's pretty long, but the general idea is you're building a business knowledge wiki from scratch. So I'm pointing you at a folder of raw source files, includes meeting transcripts, content briefs, ideas, docs, other business artifacts. Extract the knowledge from these files, build a structured interlinked wiki of markdown files. You're not summarizing documents, you're building a persistent knowledge base that captures the state of the business, its clients, projects, decisions, etc. So read everything first, then step 2, build the wiki. So it has kind of this key stuff in there, index.md, log.md, like we talked about, client pages, etc., cross-reference and link, and then build the index and log. So this stuff is key for if you want to automate this and add to it. Both the index organizes it all, and then the log keeps track of when you've added in key information. I'll put a summary, rules, etc. Then we're gonna hit run. Now it's building the wiki. Let's go. Then the last step before we actually look at the wiki is we just have to create the schema. So the schema, again, is sort of like the big instruction document that tells an LLM how to think about all of this data every single time that it looks at it. So it's not starting from scratch, it has the key info. So I'm gonna use this prompt. Again, this one I will also link to. So I'm building a business knowledge base using Obsidian and Claude. Blah, blah, I need you to create a schema MD file, business description, include main artifact types, main entity types, the wiki folder structure, which we now have since we just created the wiki, overview, page types, naming conventions, ingest workflow, index format, log format, cross-linking, and then rules. Now we will point that at the Company Second Brain folder, and then we'll hit enter. Cool, you can see it is now written, got the overview, page types, naming conventions, etc. All right, so now for the fun part, let's actually go look at the wiki. So if we open Obsidian, so you can see here, it's putting it all together. So the inbox is also in here along with the wiki. So you can see how everything is connected in here and how these all link together. Now, if we go into it and say we want to look at concepts, can talk about like the MacBook upgrade model. Ignore, you guys don't have to worry about any of the actual content in here. It's just the idea of what we have collected. So projects, things like this. Awesome, this is looking great. But now where it really gets big is using Claude to actually query the wiki and answer questions. So if we go back to Claude, again, this is in Claude Code here, we're gonna switch our folder to the wiki. So here, and wiki, open. And then I'm gonna paste in this prompt. So Based on what customers are saying, what are the top 3 things that we should prioritize for the next 90 days? To show your reasoning and cite which pages informed each recommendation. Cool, it's done. So you can see it explored the wiki, read the most relevant files, and then looked at what customers said. So here's some things that it told us. And then we've done a lot of like content related stuff. And so I want to ask it a question about content. So we have a lot of content planned or in progress based on what you can see in the wiki, what content gaps exist, what customer problems or objections are well documented but don't have content addressing them. Let's see what it says about that. Cool, so it finished. It gave me a couple here, so content gaps, but then I really like this summary table, so kind of key things that we could make content about. And then let's do one last one, which I really like, which is what are all the open items and unresolved questions currently tracked? So things that affect customers now, affect growth, things that just need a follow-up conversation. This kind of helps you improve and learn what is the business missing that if we added this, we would get better. Customers would like us more. This is what Jack Dorsey was talking about that helps build the product roadmap for the company. You see where the gaps are and then you just go and fill them. But if you can never look at all of the data all together, you don't know what the gaps are. And that's the big issue. That's why this is important. So we've got what's affecting customers right now, these redirect fixes. A lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. That's why I'm not going through it for you guys, because it's just, there's not that much context, but it is solid in terms of actual problems. And then I really like this, who needs a follow-up conversation? Like those missing gaps, you've talked to someone, mentioned something to them, but it never got done. And so add those in. So try this out. Hopefully this was helpful. Obviously you can do a lot to improve it even more than this. You can add in a bunch more stuff. It's kind of like, this is the really great starting point where you get tons of value, but you can add things on and tweak it as you see fit for your business.